I'm Will Fudeman, and I practice Chinese medicine, and I'm also a licensed social worker.
Love your body. Take control of your time. Steward your finances. Tune into your intuition. Balance your mind and calm your emotions. Teaching Ithaca Wellness.
I'm Will Fudeman. I practice Chinese medicine, and I'm also a licensed social worker. The truth is, I'm happy to help anybody. I graduated from social work school back in 1976, had a number of jobs doing counseling and different kinds of work with people over the years, and then decided to study Chinese medicine. The New England School of Acupuncture started in 1994 and graduated in 1997. Well, Lyme disease is actually really complex. There is often emotional components to people's experience when it becomes chronic. And I also studied Chinese herbs and have been using herbalism in my practice as well. Some of my motivation to practice Chinese medicine both had to do with my experience working with my clients as a psychotherapist. People would have physical issues that were related to their emotional issues, and I was not able to help them with the physical things. Personally, I had had remarkably positive experiences seeing an acupuncturist. I'd been in a car crash. I was rear-ended back in 1977, and my back was very racked up. So I was living in Buffalo at the time. That was the year of the infamous blizzard of '77. All travel was cut off for I don't know how long, but it was more than a week. Roads were completely impassable, and it was more than the city could deal with to open them up. And I had been in the crash about 10 days before that blizzard, so that driving was really uncomfortable, and it was constant ice for the rest of that winter. It was during that time that I began thinking about moving out west so I wouldn't have to be driving on ice and snow, and I did move to the San Francisco Bay Area. Met my first acupuncturist there, and my back was a problem, and I had a serious flare-up of sciatic pain, and it was many months after the accident. It hurt so much that I couldn't sit down. It was terrible. And I went in for a treatment, and the pain moved down my leg, into my foot, and out of my body over the course of a few days after the treatment. And it was so remarkable that for that and other reasons I continued seeing this acupuncturist for my own health and becoming really fascinated with Chinese medicine, began practicing Tai Chi, studied shiatsu massage, and then eventually decided to go to acupuncture school. For years, people had said to me, "Do you think you'll ever get your PhD?" And I would just laugh and say, if I ever go back to school, I'll study acupuncture. And I wasn't actually all that serious at the time, but when the opportunity sort of came around to it, I finally decided, yeah, that's really what I want to do. Because of my background, having done counseling work, and actually the first job I had out of college, I worked at a small private mental hospital called the Austin Riggs Center, which is in Stockbridge, Mass. It was a teaching hospital for therapists, and there were some remarkably renowned therapists working there, including Eric Erickson. And it was a really interesting place. It was an open hospital. It was not locked, so that the people who were residing there could walk around in town. They had a shop where people did a lot of artistic expression stuff. They had a theater in that building where the patients put on plays. So it was a very interesting place to work. I felt that side. Let me see your tongue, Paul. Yeah. Uh-huh. All right. So you were mentioning today, here in particular, your ankle?
Yeah, it's on the upper part, and it's like really tough to walk the whole leg, both knees.
Paul was in a car crash about a year ago, and there was another crash a long time ago, which was a traumatic brain injury in 1975. And you were talking about how your wrist and arm, since this accident a year ago, and it keeps coming back. I mean, it's one of the things about a lot of traumatic experiences is a quick fix is rare, right? There's improvement and then it comes back in other ways. Feel this one?
A little bit lower. Yeah, actually right about there. Yeah. Perfect. Start.
I mean, some of what I love about Chinese medicine is that it tends to be really useful for all kinds of quality of life conditions. The things that Western medicine is least good at. Western medicine is phenomenal in emergencies. It can save your life. If you need surgery, the diagnostic techniques are precise. They are amazing. If I see somebody who's having a heart attack, the first thing I'm going to do is call 911. And then I might do some things I know from Chinese medicine to try to help the person out in the short term while I'm waiting for the ambulance to show up. It is very common that people don't feel as good as they could feel. And there are mysterious issues that plague people and don't go away. There are chronic degenerative issues as people get older. There are brain issues. And Chinese medicine tends to be really, really beneficial when people are early on diagnosed with multiple sclerosis or Parkinson's to slow the progress. So I've treated a number of people with MS over the years. And I found it to be really, really useful. Bessel van der Kolk, and he is an MD psychiatrist. He's phenomenal. I did a workshop with him at Kripalu 3 years ago, and his thinking and the research that both he has done and that he has compiled and written about in that book backs up the benefits of practices like yoga, like Tai Chi and Qigong, and interventions like acupuncture, which are energetic interventions, in that what he is suggesting when people have whatever kinds of trauma we might go through, there's what is often called capital T trauma, which are obvious traumas, physical abuse, being in wars, being in car crashes, being in natural disasters, sexual abuse. Capital T trauma, it's obvious what's going on. There's also little t traumas, which are the kind of things that are very, very common, profoundly affect people's lives, and it has to do with, particularly when you're a child, and you're really freaked out about some emotional experience, and even if your parents really care about you, they don't have the time or the ability or the skill to give you the attention and care to what's freaking the child out. So maybe the parents freaked out and overwhelmed themselves. And a child's life can change dramatically when they're freaked out and there's nobody who gets it, because they're alone with their fear about what they've experienced. They're alone with it. And that changes them, and it's held in the body. Much of the research indicates that therapy alone doesn't really help people recover from trauma all that much. As Bessel puts it, all the stuff he'd ever learned didn't really help that much. What helped? Acupuncture, yoga, qigong, EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprogramming, acting, getting physically involved, something that brings people into their bodies in the present, and meditative things, and all kinds of meditative practices. People who practice meditative things, or, the thing about acupuncture that's amazing is the person's relaxing on the table and energy is shifting and changing. And I've done stuff, and I don't know what's exactly happening, but somehow what I studied in school taught me how to make use of taking pulse, looking at the tongue, learning what combinations of points are likely to help create a movement of the qi that is going to move towards balance and a return to health after the treatment. For 1 weekend, I studied how to use those tuning forks. They call the technique acutonics, because you have these precisely calibrated forks that there's different relationships between the two forks I'll use at a given time based on whether I'm trying to boost the energy, move the energy, or calm the energy. And it's just a way, in particular for children or people who are uncomfortable with needles. You don't have to use needles at all. I mean, I've continued to do shiatsu massage as well, but the tuning forks is just another way to touch and create a sense of, literally resonance. There is this sound that is, you can hear it when you bring it up close to your ears, but they're pretty subtle. But they're going, and one's going, and the other one's, and this kind of thing is, so I'm making this connection between the 2 points. Who knows what's happening in the body, but something beneficial seems to be happening. I'm going to use my tuning forks now. It's basically a way to stimulate some other points, and it tends to be really calming. Helps the person often have a deeper experience. Okay, so you're pretty comfortable?
Yeah.
Chinese medicine's about, in a way. It's energetic. So there's theory that we study. And my first acupuncturist would often go, the Chinese say, and he would then say something. So my teachers said various things. Various books I've read say certain things. Everything about the experience of life and health and how it all works comes through people's experience of how they understand it. It's like, the different blind people touching parts of the elephant or something. So there's the Chinese medicine window on reality. It's very different from the Western scientific method. It's an energetic approach to health. We're thinking about the seasons, yin and yang, and how that balances. There's the 5 elements, the 8 principles. There's, all this stuff in Chinese medical theory that we study, and it becomes kind of a worldview. It's a different worldview. It seems to really work and be unbelievably beneficial. I don't know if it's literally accurate to say that these things are happening, but the fact that it's workable and it helped me so much, and I've seen it help so many people, I'm not worried about understanding the precise mechanisms of it. There are people who are researchers. There's a lot less money going into research on how acupuncture works because most of us seem more interested in helping people than in doing the research. Drug companies do most of the research, or fund much of the research in this country, and they're not behind research on acupuncture. And it's really hard to do research on acupuncture because different people, you would treat different ways for a similar condition. There's 4 people with a headache, and I might treat them all differently because it's your headache and my headache and Paul's headache. And each of us are different constitutionally, what's causing the headache might be different, and I might treat it differently. I follow the diagnostics. When I was in school, I would often ask my teacher questions about why this tongue diagnosis, why does this particular position on the pulse mean this? And teachers would just say, come back after 5 years and see if you're going to ask me the same question. After you've been practicing, you'll find that it seems to be real and it seems to be useful. So it's almost like using the language of understanding it cognitively almost is beside the point. I'm thinking of taking out the needles and letting Paul turn over so I can look on his back. So we're going to look at that left shoulder especially. How's that? You feel that? Oh, baby. Alrighty. I wanted to add some stuff about the notion of recovering from trauma is generally not a quick fix. I want to talk about the value of psychotherapy in conjunction with energetic interventions and times when there can be profoundly dramatic improvements which are very healing, but it doesn't mean that it's all over. I want to talk about how common it is that people are given psychiatric drugs, how in some circumstances they can be particularly beneficial, but that the long-term research indicates that the longer people are on them, the worse the outcomes. So that one of the not yet understood things, and I'll mention this book I wrote, it's been common in my practice that people who have been on psych drugs for a long time have made really good use of acupuncture as they've slowly, under their prescriber's direction, tapered off the drugs. It's made it easier to come off, to be taking Chinese herbs and having acupuncture. In my experience and in my years of working with people, it's rare that there's a quick fix to serious trauma, even though both with certain forms of cathartic psychotherapies and also other kinds of energetic interventions, including acupuncture, people can feel remarkably better. They can feel like, a profound shift has happened and they are past some really bad place they've been in. And yet, similar issues or the same issues or some other life experience will trigger a memory. You think you've gone through it and it's not gone. So this certainly speaks to the importance of having ongoing healing relationships, whether with a psychotherapist or other kinds of healing practitioners, where there's a sense of trust, a sense of continuity, a sense of this is somebody who knows me, who knows what I've been through, and who I can rely on when things are hard. Traumatic experiences, there's stuff that trauma survivors have in common, but everybody's trauma is unique to their personal story, and every relationship, every healing relationship is unique. There are people who come to me and really, they've been seeing me for years and years and years, and they're doing a lot better, but there's this relationship, and it's what really works for them. Sometimes there are people who come to me and they're not getting what they need. And I'll recommend, well, here's some other people you might see. And it's not like the people don't like me. It's just whatever it is that I'm doing isn't meeting the need of what they have. So, one thing about having been in this community for a few decades is I know a lot of other practitioners and people who I respect who do diverse kinds of work, and I have ideas about where people can go if what I'm doing or what I'm doing alone isn't going to be enough. So it's been common in my experience that people who come to see me have been taking psychiatric drugs, sometimes for years and years, sometimes for not so long. After people have been on psych drugs, which may have helped them, often they want to get off them because there are unwanted side effects, or people just would feel better not having to stay on them if they're doing better. Using acupuncture and sometimes Chinese herbal formulas is really beneficial in helping the process of coming off the drugs be smoother and less challenging. It's come to my attention, there's a book that Robert Whitaker wrote called Anatomy of an Epidemic. That's a book about psychiatric drugs, and he compiled a lot of research, and overall, all of them, the antidepressants, the anti-anxiety drugs, certainly the drugs for ADHD, stimulants, while they might have short-term incredible benefits and really make people's lives better for a period of time, the overall experience has been the longer people take all of these drugs, the worse the outcomes. So that when people explore alternatives that might be effective, clearly in the most serious situations, people who are suicidal, people who are really psychotic, a little bit of acupuncture and Chinese herbs is not going to be as potent as a powerful antipsychotic. It's just the truth. You want to do the powerful intervention when it's necessary. But when people are doing okay, it's not the best idea for many people to have to stay on these drugs for a long time. Given my experiences and my background, I had this interest in this issue, and I was surprised that there wasn't much more written about it, and I wound up writing a little book about it, and I included 3 essays by 3 of my finest teachers as appendices to the book, and they're all really great articles. But in particular, I want to mention Dr. Stephen Cowan, who's a pediatrician, who has also written a book about ADHD, where he doesn't give children drugs at all and thinks about what kind of a child is this? What kind of attention issues do they have based on Chinese 5-element thinking? His essay in my book is about healing emotions in children. And he talks about how all of these drugs aren't necessarily FDA approved for use in children. There's a real risk in prescribing substances to young people that are going to affect them likely for the rest of their lives, and they don't have any choice about what's going on. So I really encourage people to, of course, read my book, but also Stephen's book, which is called Fire Child, Water Child. Some of what Stephen Cowan says about this is, children are amazing and they're really alive, and some kids just are not naturally prone to learn best by sitting in rows for long periods of time and having to focus on what the teacher is doing. And there are different ways that children learn best for a lot of the children who don't thrive in such a one-size-fits-all approach to education, which has become, unfortunately, more the case in our country in recent decades. Asked about my brochure and this image on the front. This is a Tibetan characters for the curing of all diseases. So I thought, why not have something so amazing? I actually did the calligraphy for here. This is some return to health in Chinese characters. I have my office here on Albany Street in Ithaca. There's a website where people can find out more about my practice, willfudeman.com. People reach me through my phone number, 607-272-8390. Generally have openings for people to come see me.
He's done. Will and I I've been getting acupuncture sessions from him for 5 years, I think. He talks about learning patience, basically, about trusting the process and giving myself space and time to let the healing happen. And I'm always in a hurry to have that happen yesterday. So that is an ongoing process. This appears to be a longer trajectory than I thought, in terms of something happening in 1975 and still going on in 2018. What I like on the table is to relax and enjoy the feeling of the acupressure, to feel the nourishment of it, to feel my body not just go at ease. It's always amazing that he's never any further off than 16th or a 32nd of an inch to the points that are like, oh yes. This is a lot more powerful for me in the long run because it goes with my belief, I guess, that I really don't like Western medicine in terms of the side effects of different drugs that I've had to take along the way. And so I've weaned myself off of those over the years. So now I use receiving acupuncture sessions, doing this Jin-Shin Jitsu that I do, which is something like acupressure that I do on my own, on myself. That keeps things moving. You know, I swim, I eat better, I pray a little bit more often, I meditate.
Oh, and I've been asking people, what does happiness mean to you?
I used to think it was a lack of pain, but it seems to be having the hope that the actions that I do are in the best interest of everything and everyone.
That's beautiful.
So it used to go to the proximity of people that I was around, my sphere of influence, but it gets reframed a lot to if the values of the planet don't get in harmony pretty soon, my sphere of influence will just collapse just like everyone else's. So I tend to get pretty political and global pretty quickly.
I mean, happiness is food when I'm hungry, swimming when I want to move, and being of use brings happiness. Connecting with people who I'm happy to connect with, and then rest. If you've been working hard, there's nothing like rest.
For sure.
It's different in different moments. It's all happiness.
It's all happiness. Yay! Next week on Teaching Ithaca Wellness.
Happiness means being involved with all these people on such a beautiful day, having a great time.
Oh yes, so we have this exuberant celebration of good things, the Grassroots Happiness Parade.
My umbrella, somebody gave this to us because it was broken, and then we turned it into this beautiful umbrella that we have here. And I mean, that's it, I guess.
In just a few minutes, we're going to get our instruments and folks together and start making some really nice music outdoors. I think it's a great time for a parade, so we're going to do it. We're going to celebrate.
Positive what? Positive signs. Signs? Signs. What does that mean? You're positive. Oh, yes, the signs.
A lot of people don't think about the privilege that they're given. Like just today, being at this parade, being able to march in a parade, being able to walk, being able to not be working today. Just remember your privilege so you can help people less fortunate than you.
Life is amazing and enjoy the magic.
Hi, I'm Darlene Slaughter, and my business is Hands of Light Energy Work, and I'm so happy to be here today. I've been doing energy work since the early 1980s, and I practice in Trumansburg on Main Street, where I used to sell insurance. What I offer, it basically is energy balancing. I do aura cleansing, I do chakra balancing, and I also combine some of the intuitive lessons that I've learned throughout the years into my sessions. I started many years ago in the 1980s. Just recently started a real practice of it. I had an insurance agency that paid my bills, so I just did it and didn't charge for it, and now I actually have a practice.